Ball up!
I've never seen anything like it before, and to attempt to hit the ball out of there is pure madness.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Cameron Smith.
This is the one that I've always wanted to win since I was a little kid. So it just feels pretty amazing to be able to get it done today.
It's amazing that it's my destiny to be the first Aussie to win. Just incredible.
Hello and welcome to a special Masters preview edition of Playing from the Tips, the preview and tipping show presented by Golf Australia magazine. I'm your host, Jimmy Emanuel, and like everyone in world golf, all our attention this week is on Augusta National and the year's first major championship, where Tiger Woods will return to action, Adam Scott will celebrate 10 years since his historic green jacket, and LIV and PGA Tour players come together in a significant way for the first time this year. To get started this week, let's follow the instructions of Jim Nance and say hello, friends, to our so-called experts joining us this week. Firstly, to a man who in the past has gone to great depths in creating his own recipe for pimento cheese sandwiches and is the Fuzzy Zeller of our so-called experts winning team.
Whoa.
Winning on debut and continuing to show up constantly since, Adrian Logue. Welcome, Logue.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Fuzzy Zeller, that was unexpected.
Yeah, that's right. Anything
Not sure how I
catch your...
feel about that, except the pimento cheese part.
No, you're Fuzzy Zeller.
Okay.
Win on debut and then you're still around.
Okay, all right.
It's not a bad thing.
Okay.
Anything catch your eye last week in the world of golf, Logue?
Yes, the Anwar, as I like to call it.
Yep. The Augusta National Women's Amateur for everyone else.
Was really great viewing. I really enjoyed it. And big victory to Rose Zhang, and congratulations.
Very impressive considering how dominant she was to then survive some really bad golf at stages in the last round.
But I think she's contended in almost, not everyone, but she's gotten to that final round in everyone that she's played and shot terrible scores every time.
Yeah.
But got the job done this time.
Interestingly, ditched the plan for a local caddy in favour of the dad who was approaching Peter Kuchar territory with his antics.
Might have been questioning that decision on the 15th, mightn't you?
Yeah, that's right. And that is the voice of the Bernhard Langer of the golf podcast world, who was a success years ago but keeps showing up and surprisingly mixing it with the youth. That being Rod Morri. Rod, welcome.
Could have been Fred Couples. Why did I have to be Bernhard Langer? I could have been the George Clooney of golf.
As evidenced in the episode of last week's Good Golf podcast, you're not nearly cool enough to be Fred Couples.
That's very true.
And the microphone's anchored to your shirt as well.
Take it easy. Thank you, Jimmy. It's an exciting week, isn't it? I always have mixed feelings about the Masters because you love the golf course, but the club and the history, there's so much there that's...
I'll be getting into that.
Yeah, that's great. Unpalatable. So it's always it's a real kind of enigma, this tournament.
It is.
I reckon. But it's undeniably one of the most entertaining weeks of the year.
Yeah. Before we move into that and this week, let's take a look back at the tipping form last week to show the listeners that we do have some idea what we're talking about.
It's going to be a tough ask. Can you make that case in court?
We were winless last week, but we did have 5 top 10s. Takes our yearly total to 57. Best result was a third place by Steph Bunke, tipped by Adrian Logue at the Australian Women's Classic Bonville. Plenty of other top 25 or better, which is exactly the sort of form a player wants to be in heading to the Masters. You don't want to win the week before the Masters. So
we could make a living.
Yeah, that's right.
Depending
absolutely.
on the tour you're on.
We could make
not on the Ladies European Tour, but if you were top 25 every week on the PGA Tour, you'd have a couple of houses.
57 top 10s. I reckon we're leading the money list.
Absolutely.
Even without a win.
That's a career.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's Jay Monahan territory. That's what you get for being commissioner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a weekly top 10.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's your commissioner's salary.
Okay, so on to this week's action. And first, let's look at the golf course, which is all important and one of the only places we visit every year that gains attention because it is so special and changing as well. Adrian Logue has been assigned to be our deep dive expert on Augusta National ahead of the 87th Masters Tour.
I'll go make a cup of tea for us, Jimmy, while we...
I hear Logue likes a cup of tea, so that'd be good.
He did too yesterday.
Well, I'd like to blow your minds with a little known fact about the course is that it's a lot hillier than it looks on TV. That's the first thing that has to be said about the course. No, okay.
Are you going to use the word scale? The scale of it?
I'm not. No. First, I would like to expose an ugly truth about Augusta National. This needs to be said. The Augusta National Par-3 course is terrible.
It's been renovated.
Been redone.
Oh, I know. Par 3 course, 5 new holes bring water into play, and there's some photos. We'll leave a link in the show notes for the photos. And it's still terrible. Like, they look, to me, it looks like Hudson Park with azaleas.
Oh, wow.
There's a couple of holes there.
Have you been down and had a look at it?
Yeah, it's terrible.
I don't hate it.
It's just like flat little discs, like for the greens.
Greens are unimaginative.
Completely uninteresting. Like, it honestly, a couple of holes there would be the best hole at Hudson Park.
Hudson Park's closed, you know that.
Yeah, well, the Augusta Local Council should come in and close
the
Par 3 course at Augusta National, just like was it Burwood Council closed Hudson Park?
I can't remember yet. Anyway.
Yeah, it's truly one of the least interesting Par 3 courses in the world. I don't think there's any exaggeration there. It's just well-groomed and it's got azaleas.
Fairness, we didn't know anything about it really until a few years ago when they started putting it on TV.
But why do they make such a terrible... Like, it's terrible.
It's more they just make a big deal out
It's
of it.
truly terrible. But then you look at some other great courses in the world, like there's the Valliere course at Morfontaine.
Yep.
Great golf course, the little 9-holer there. The short course at Pine Valley replicates some of the shots from the main course.
Yep.
And countless other good second courses or 9-hole courses.
Now, aren't you? There's a bunch of people that don't know what you're talking about.
Well, no, I haven't been to those places.
Crates is the man to speak to. You'll have been to all of them. No?
Here's a place we've all been, the Terry Hills chip and putt,
pitch and putt.
Par 3 chip and putt course. That is a better golf course. No, it is. It is better. It is far more interesting greens there. No, that is a much better golf course than.
I don't think you've had a close enough look at. I think the Par 3 course probably is made to look worse when you just watch those players play it, where they're actually hitting to the right part of the greens. Because there is some greens with some big hogs backs in them, where if you hit it to the wrong part, it's going to be a lot more interesting. Or if you miss the green,
I don't know. They just look like flat discs to me.
Okay.
Anyway, so the main course, the 13th tee is way back. We all know about that. Other than that, there's no significant changes to the course. Early reports on that 13th tee are that you can't really shape your ball off that tee anymore. It's
very narrow shoot.
I was going to say, it looks like you barely fit your golf ball through it.
Can't really hit a big hook like was suggested was going to be the idea before anyone had seen it.
You certainly can't hit a quick hook.
Correct.
You can hit something that will drift left at the end.
Can't start it right and sling it either.
No, that's right. Nothing slingy.
Difficult to do with a modern driver anyway. So basically it's going to shoot you towards the tree line, uneven stance, about 200 yards. I've spoken to a couple of players last week who played practice rounds and all had about 4-iron in. So that's 200 yards or so, and a bit of a decision as to whether to go for it. Adam Scott said he played a couple of times and hit a couple of 4-irons on the green. Minwoo Lee it's right on his number, and so it was had to be a flushed 4-iron to get it in the right spot, so laid up.
Good. That's what
Dustin Johnson laid up a couple of times, I've heard, a week or two ago.
Isn't the irony, though, in some ways, that it hasn't actually returned that momentous decision? What it's done is made it quite a one-dimensional hole.
Yeah.
Everyone's now going to drive to essentially the same spot. So the decision will be made on the second shot, but how you get to the second shot has been kind of...
It's going to be like the 18th at Mission Hills, if they're all laying up too. It becomes just a 50-metre par 3.
Yeah. Difficult pitch across the...
This is the problem with the rollback debate and distance and whatnot. Just adding 40 yards to that hole hasn't really given it back the characteristics that made it such a great hole when the ball didn't go as far. It's still changed the nature of the way it plays. So it's lesser. You're not going to see what we saw in 96 with Faldo standing in that fairway with a 2-iron and a 5-wood and how he got there with Norman up in the right trees and everything. So it'll be interesting to see it play out. But, essentially what they've done is just force everybody to hit it
to
the same spot and then make a decision from there.
Left-handers might do all right, I think.
A cut
easier to cut it around that corner than try and hook it for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But then
and they can barely hit a ball these days, below these pros.
Ball below the feet for the left-hander, it's a harder second shot.
Awful second shot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ball below the feet, trying to sort of hold one up against the breeze that comes off the right there most of the time as well. That's no lunch.
There's
that's
water
really
left and short of that green too, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
So the pop-up shot from with the ball below the feet for the left-hander is going straight in the pond, short of the bridge.
Yeah, it's really uncomfortable. Yeah, the big play for the left-hander was to get it far enough around so that you get onto a little flat.
Correct.
Yeah, right down next to the creek there where it's flat and it's just a perfect stance.
Yeah. Anyway, so 13th to change. Other than that, we saw in the Anwar that the front of the 15th green was quite tightly mown and some players spun it off the front there. Hopefully they keep that for the men's tournament. It was very soft in the Anwar.
It was,
and that's probably going to continue the rain forecast, or the forecast is for rain every single day of the tournament.
Yep.
And some heavy rain, I think even thunderstorms on the Thursday. So it's hard to see it drying out. I think that's going to have a big impact on who can win. I think it really kind of takes Tiger out of it.
Yeah, difficult for him when it gets wet and soft.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And cold.
Cold. Cold's the biggest issue for him.
It is going to be reasonably cold as well. The greens will hopefully be firm because they can turn the dials on that.
That's never going to be a problem.
Yeah. But even then, it was super soft for that second half of the final day of the Anwar. The greens, they were just throwing darts into those greens, and the scoring was.
They do actively prepare it in a very tapered way, and by Thursday from Wednesday morning, they are a different speed. Interestingly, players aren't allowed anything remotely like a stimp meter or a perfect putt to test out speeds.
They're not allowed?
Not allowed to use them on the property, no.
Oh, right.
And basically, from being there and talking to players, at Tuesday, Wednesday, they kind of say you're working on the slopes, you're not working on the speed, because by Thursday morning, it's a completely different golf course. And that sub-air system, in 2019, it absolutely poured. And the surrounds of the fairways were extremely wet and laid out with a material that soaks up the moisture and smells. But
I was there in 2019 and it stank.
Yeah.
I'm concerned for the patrons this year with the smell.
But they turn the sub-air on. You can hear it on the property in certain parts.
So during play, they'll do it during the day. So if there's a rain delay,
Correct,
they'll turn it on before
night.
Okay.
And it dries out the greens in no time at all. So there's no issues with dampness on the greens. Fairways in those low points become a bit damper, but these guys are used to that sort of thing.
Got to wonder about the tunnel system underneath the golf course.
Yeah.
It goes all. I'm sure that you can walk out and stand underneath the 12th green if you want to, directly beneath it and fiddle with the sub-air controls. You just, take a little golf cart out there.
Yeah.
What an amazing place it is.
Yeah. There's a tunnel from the clubhouse to the media centre these days.
Is it a kilometre?
Players. Yeah, it's quite a way. The media go out on an outdoor sort of cart path where there was 2 permanent speed bumps installed in 2019 because there was a near crash, so you needed to tidy that up.
Issues.
But the players just kind of emerged from this place, and how did you get here?
They could sell tickets to a tour underneath the ground.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Disneyland does that, I think. They've got big underground tunnel systems and stuff. It's quite fascinating. So anyway, they say most of a golf course expense is under the ground. I think in Augusta National case, it's quite a lot. So I'm concerned about the patrons for the smell.
Yes.
That's going to be a concern. You've raised that already. And also the discontinuation of the Georgia peach ice cream sandwich.
Yes.
Well, apparently not. Shackleton says it's there.
It's there. It was there last week during the
reports were
Augusta
false.
National.
Might have been an April Fool's joke, perhaps. But
no, it was earlier than that.
Oh, that's good.
But they were there last week, and I believe they're there this week.
Oh, okay. Because it always seemed like a supply problem with peaches, apparently.
Yeah, apparently that was something to do with it. But the absolute tip of the concession stand: stay away from those pimento cheese sandwiches. They taste horrific.
Excuse me, sir.
Those things are awful. If you're looking for a sandwich, a barbecue chicken is probably the way to go. But Georgia peach ice cream, outstanding.
Just before we leave the course, one of the problems with Augusta National is they make all sorts of changes during the year. Nobody knows, do they? The players say this. I remember Mickelson saying this years ago. He said, you can go and play the course in a practice round and it'll dawn on you afterwards. Something about the 11th hole was just a tiny bit different. They've raised the green at the back right.
One time
lowered the green at the back right.
They moved to the first tee and all of its surrounding trees back or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So what was that Jim Carrey movie where they just move the world around?
Yeah, like the Truman Show.
Yeah, exactly. It's that sort of thing. So apparently, I heard Mickelson say that he reckons they've softened the left side of the 13th green this year because there's probably going to be more action there.
Yep.
So that's been softened a little bit. But you'd have to be someone who's been there every year for years and years and years to notice a lot of that stuff because you can't tell. Every year it bobs up on the TV. There is no indication. When they moved the 5th tee back a couple of years ago, went back for like 40 yards across the other side of a road, you'd have thought it had been there forever and that they just, pulled back a curtain and said, we're going to use it this year. It's always been here. It's unbelievable.
Well, that's like that. The new 13th tee looks like it's been bedded in the ground forever.
Yeah.
Like that's not how it normally works.
They've got no shortage of resources. I'm pretty sure when they did the trees between 15 and 7 all those years ago, they just trucked in fully grown Georgia pine trees, dug huge holes and put them in the ground.
17,
15 and 17. Yeah. Just extraordinary. I mean, the resources they've got at their fingertips. This is one of the problems with Augusta National. Nobody begrudges them that, but they can do all that stuff, and this is part of that distance debate. You come down to the level of local golf clubs around Sydney and the world where you've got amateurs hitting the ball crazy distances as well with a lot less control. who's got the resources to do what Augusta National does?
It's ridiculous. It's outrageous. They dig. I mean, those Eureka Earth photos are fascinating, aren't they? When
you see it during construction.
They dig it all up, like the whole thing gets.
You're
dug
horrified.
up.
How could you do that? It's like, just whitewash over the Mona Lisa and then repaint it. And It's like, well, it looks exactly the same. How do they do that?
That's what they do.
Yeah,
something they do that everyone else should follow is every hole is only in a yardage distance of five.
Oh, yeah.
So it's either a 0 or a 5. That just makes sense to me. Why do we need to know that a hole is 373 yards?
Well, because I'm a precision
You're
performing.
I've seen you
machine.
hit balls on a launch monitor. You are not.
So no other changes that we know of, though, is there? The 13th is taking all.
I always suspect they've gotten rid of a few more trees right of the 11th fairway, that stupid forest they put in there. I feel like they've thinned that out. But I was trying to look in the armway. It looked like it was thinner there, but I'm not quite sure.
Do the camera angles change every year, do you reckon? Do you get the same camera angles to be able to make the comparisons, or do they move those around?
You see some camera
I think the stationary cams stay in place, but there's more and more movable mobile cams each year, so I think you get a little bit different perspective, and you maybe think something maybe creeps in more or less, which they did with 11 a few years back, where they moved a few more trees into the right-hand side to block it out. So
the arm was fascinating because they play off the members' tees, and the cameras are very invariably like back, behind, and it creates a really interesting view.
Yeah. Rod, you've managed to whittle down the list of starters into a group of players to watch, I believe.
Well, and you watch players for all sorts of reasons, don't you? Not necessarily because they might win. So the big three this year is going to be Scheffler, Rahm and Rory. We all know that. They're the players coming in. Scheffler's defending, which probably almost immediately rules him out. Only been done by 3 other players, Tiger, Jack and Faldo. Is Scheffler in that class? He's good at the moment. I doubt it. So that probably works against him. Not to say you can't do it. But that'll be to do with the distractions as much as anything else. I think as Masters champion, especially no doubt they do it all happily. I've already heard him on the Masters podcast that they say he was interviewed on that. He was obviously doing that from home, but there'll be so much of that. The local papers where he lives, they'll be wanting to. And just all the other players. I mean, they must be coming up, well done, enjoy the week, etc. So look, it does all work against playing. However, having said that, he's in pretty good form on the players and the match play.
Yeah. 2
pretty handy fields.
Yeah, not bad tournaments.
And 2 different forms of the game, and wasn't playing his best at the match play, but still managed to get it done. So, look, you wouldn't put it past him. But Rory, is he? I know I've written this. Is he the Neely man of his generation? Is he the Norman Weiskopf?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's no science to it. It defies science that Norman Weiskopf and McIlroy haven't won the Masters. They should have. But is there just something there you can't help but wonder? You have that feeling about Rory?
You watch him, and he's got that bouncy walk when he's up and about, and he seems to walk through the gates there, and it disappears from him.
Whoever wants it too much.
Maybe. And look, and all the pressure on him. In fact, this year's probably a bit less than normal. The last 4 or 5 years, because it's the one for the Grand Slam. It has started the end of the PGA the previous year.
Yeah.
He started getting the questions about the Grand Slam and Augusta the following year. Less of that this year, I think, with Tiger and a few other storylines around the place. But look.
And form's been a little bit up and down.
It has been. He's a more consistent player than he used to, but his brilliance is a little bit lower.
Yep.
A wet course.
A wet course will help him. And the way he's hitting the driver really plays into his hands. I don't think it's anything physical for Rory. Something happens. When he stepped on that 11th tee Sunday in 2011, and you cannot forget how horrid that shot was. He wouldn't have hit a shot like that for 10 years before that. No. And that's just bone shaking. And there's some aura about Augusta that just won't let some players who should win get it done, and I fear he might be one. I would love to be wrong, and I'd love to see him do it this year. I think it'd be.
You feel like Rory might stumble over the line at Augusta if he keeps putting himself in position, although he doesn't put himself in position in the back 9 on Sunday very often. He's usually out of it by then. But
out early Sunday, shoot 64, weather rolls in, couple of nervous leaders, and can Rory be there? If he's going to win
I feel like he could do a Rozang. He could have a big lead going to last and just stumble over the line.
I feel
with a bad round.
He's had quite a few good Sundays there, like he did last year.
Yeah, last year.
So clearly likes the way the golf course gets set up on a Sunday. So I feel like that's more likely
backdoor top 3 or top 5.
A good last round where there's a bit of stumbling from others could be. His sort of thing, sit in the clubhouse and not have to worry about it.
Sort of an intriguing character, isn't he, Rory? I mean, he should have won that Open last year.
Yeah.
He played the round Tiger would have played.
Yep.
Yeah.
And got beaten by Cam
Sometimes
Smith.
it's going to happen.
Sometimes it's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. But yeah.
Happened to Nicholas, 20 times or something?
Yeah. That's 19
I think that
times
Open last year is probably more the thing that's worth paying attention to for Rory ahead of this, where he played exactly the way he probably thought he needed to. Maybe didn't hold as many putts as he thought, didn't get it over the line, but he knew what he was doing, and he looked more comfortable playing a major and not winning than he's probably ever looked playing in a major golf.
And it hurt too.
Yeah, it hurt.
He cried. He really cried. So, look, Look, Rory will be interesting. Rory's always interesting to watch, but you're right. If he bounces through the gates and bounces to the first tee, who knows? Would love to see it. Rahm, ever so slightly off the boil after a crazy good start to the year. Doesn't have a terrific record around Augusta. Not a bad record. A 4th, a 5th, a 7th and a 9th alongside 2 tied 27ths. He's at his best when he's on a charge, right? Don't you think?
Yeah.
When he's the raging bull, he becomes unstoppable, and it feels like he's just out the other side of the raging bull phase. Didn't get out of the pool play at the match play, missed the cut at the Players.
I feel like that makes him dangerous, I think.
Possibly, yeah. Well, here's the thing. If he walks in with the attitude of, I'm just going to take this thing by the scruff of the neck, it's possible. But
one of those guys that has a game that suits everywhere. Should suit here, but hasn't maybe quite worked it out yet.
No.
Like had some good results, but hasn't quite got it yet.
Again, a wet course will favour him. We don't think of him as having the sort of short game of Seve or sort of Jose, and I don't think he does. That maybe is the little piece that's held him back here, perhaps.
Putts very well.
Putts
maybe
amazing.
better than both of those.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, chipping and pitching is probably the area where it's a bit struggling.
Look, so it would not be a surprise if any of those three won. They will certainly be shouldering the bulk of the public and press attention, aside from the live players, which is a sort of a side story.
Yeah, we'll talk about
in terms of who's going to contend, and I think that's as it should be.
Yeah.
They're all sort of proven performers. Then you got the second rung, which is big, the second rung.
Yeah.
Players like Cantlay, Justin Thomas, Morikawa, Hovland, Fitzpatrick, Finau, good players, major winners, some of them. Don't really perform well at Augusta.
Yep.
You wouldn't be surprised if any of them were there at the end, but you wouldn't pick any of them necessarily at the start of it. Can anybody see Justin Thomas in a green jacket? Try and picture it. Hovland you could, maybe. He's going to scull something late on Sunday to miss out on it.
Did you say Schauffele as well?
No, I don't put Schauffele in that.
Oh, really?
He's had some good results. He's finished second and fourth there.
Yeah, I think
and he's got.
Are you putting him above that?
He's above that pack. Yeah.
I think
there's
he's
another category.
Quite an elite player, Schauffele. Thomas strikes as if he should win one there at some stage.
He shapes the ball. He works the ball. He controls his spin. Controls his flight.
He feels like he should, but it's
it feels too nuanced for him.
Yeah,
it's not a straightforward enough golf course, I don't think. Thomas is great when the goal or the objective is simple. It's obvious. Hit this shot.
Yeah.
But it just isn't that at Augusta. You can hit this shot or that shot or that shot, and the answer might be different depending on the wind, which is what makes Tiger such a dominant figure there. He can hit all the shots on call. Thomas can too, but I'm not sure he sees them.
It pains me to say it, but I just think he's too good not to contend there 1 year at least.
He'll contend, most definitely, and you wouldn't be surprised.
He hasn't performed great there, but it just feels like he's just too good not to have everything click. Like everything's just going to click 1 year, and he's just going to
He might be
steal one.
Second rung and a half.
Yep.
He's between the top rung and the second rung. The rest are on that sort of second rung. Again, you wouldn't be at all surprised to see any of them contend or win it, but I don't know that you'd pick any of them at the start.
Interesting, I find that he's got Jim Mackay, Phil's caddy, as his caddy, who's got so much experience there, so much experience in majors and everything like that.
How good was his commentary?
But
caddy commentators, brilliant, aren't they?
But caddying for almost his entire career for Phil Mickelson, who plays the game in a completely different way than Justin Thomas does, I think some of that experience doesn't necessarily transfer as well as people would assume. Phil had a very, very specific game plan of how he played Augusta National that's very different to the way Justin Thomas does.
Yes.
Thomas has done all the right things. He plays with Tiger and Freddie every year. He's doing all that stuff that Tiger did by playing with Seve and Jose when he went first and learnt how to do it, and O'Meara and all these guys, but whether or not there's as much transferable stuff to his skill set as to how to play it and the advice he gets, I
just don't know if there's enough of the artist in Thomas. I think that's what it comes down to put it simply. He's a fabulous scientist, an amazing technician of the game, and does amazing things with the golf, but I'm just not sure that he's got the vision.
I think he's also in a very, very competitive era that perhaps that might be the block from him winning one, whereas, if there was less depth, he might have snuck one, by this stage.
Pretty so, Pete. Go and put your money on Justin Thomas, given what we've just said.
Yeah, that's right. If we've written him off, he's a big chance. That's right.
Big. He's a very big chance. Look, that's a big pool of players. I mentioned a few of them. There's a big pool. Your regular PGA Tour contenders, your Corey Connors, and all those players who are definitely good enough. There's no question they're good enough. But something happens at this place on Sunday especially that changes things. Which brings us to Masters Magicians. This category, I think, is where you'll generally find a winner. Some players just get it. Good showing on debut is often a good indicator of this.
Absolutely.
Minwoo will come to. He's had a good debut last year. So leading this category is Jordan Spieth.
Yep.
Does not matter what's been going on the week before, the month before, the year before. He walks through those gates, or drives through those gates probably, in a very fancy and comfortable car, climate controlled, no doubt, and something happens.
Ben Crenshaw in the 80s and 90s is the quintessential one of these, I think.
Yeah, very much so. Just gets it. Tom Kite, in a lot of ways.
Tom Kite, yeah.
Just gets it, feels comfortable there, almost like a coming home.
Yep.
You could back Jordan Spieth there every year. And look, he missed the cut last year. Almost unheard of. The year before, I think he shot 64 on Sunday, didn't he? Out of nowhere.
Yeah, almost one of the greatest victories ever. He just hit that tree on the 18th. Yep. Otherwise, he was potentially going to shoot a 62 to win.
That's right.
Like, it was like potentially going to be the greatest round ever in major history and snatch a Masters out of nowhere. With
and
no
might have actually gone a long way to dousing what happened in 2016, which was the opposite. Might have been one of the worst moments in major championship history. Which is
he double rinsed on 12 last year as well.
Yeah. Well, he's hit a ball,
second round, I think.
Has he hit a ball in the water every year on 12 almost? He did it in 2014 when he finished second above.
A lot of Titleists at the bottom of that creek with JS on the side of them.
But look, that's the magic of the place and the magic of the speed. They are a perfect fit.
Yeah.
The course and speed. And I think it's as much to do with the greens. He is the artist. He's not Justin Thomas. He's the opposite. When he sees it, he can hit it. So, again, he's actually going to be my pick, Spieth. Jason
Not
Day.
at that point yet, so.
I put him in the same category. Yep. Second on debut, 2011. He gets it. He's that player as well, and he's on the right trajectory.
Yeah. Yep. It's almost he can't help but play well there. It just fits him so well, that place.
It's exactly right. So, look, I'd put him in that same category, as I said. He's been through his horror period on his way back. We've all thought it's not like he's flown under the radar. Everyone who watches golf, knows anything about golf, has watched him this year and gone, that's a different Jason Day. That's the Jason Day of 2015. So I'd put him right there. Cam Smith I'd put in the same category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Played well every time he's been there, essentially. Is he too lightly done? That's the criticism coming in. Has he got enough of a chip on his shoulder about being told that he'll overcome it just to prove everybody wrong?
A dry, windy week, I'd be looking
I don't think
very
it's
closely
far enough in the air for a wet Masters.
Wet Masters.
We're in Zach Johnson potential too.
Yeah, wet, despite the fact the greens probably won't be wet. A wet sort of thing doesn't necessarily favour a really good short game player and wedge player. It negates a lot of that skill of being able to use the bounce and chip and pitch in different ways.
And you've got to carry it a long way in the air when it's wet, especially at Augusta, where you can carry it over places. Rather
does carry it a lot further than he used to.
Yeah,
but
he's not,
realistically, iron play has to be elite when it's a wet week, and that's probably Cam's little bit of where he comes back to the field.
But look, Cam with an attitude is dangerous.
Absolutely.
His whole career has been built on being the underdog and succeeding. He's at an interesting point in his career now after last year where there's no expectations to exceed. That's been his specialty. Right from when he won the Australian Amateur in 2013, beating a player who was hitting it literally 40 yards past him in the final, was 5 down at lunch, shook hands on the 15th or 16th green in the afternoon, having won. That's Cam Smith's specialty. As Bruce Young's always said, every hurdle put in front of him in his career, well, he's now at the very top of the game. There's no expectations to exceed. You wonder what impact that might have on him.
Where the motivation.
This week he becomes that underdog thing again, where it's like you haven't played enough, you've gone to live, it's only 3 days, it's not proper competition. Is that enough to fire him up? Possibly. I don't think so this year, but possibly. Zalatoris is another. 2 starts, 2 top 5s, one of them a second.
Injury clouds.
Injury cloud. This is the problem with Zalatoris. Who would know? Look, he shouldn't.
Well, it's one of the problems.
Well, he shouldn't.
The other problem is when it gets inside the flagstick length and it just is horrifying stuff.
You could say the same thing about Vijay Singh and Bernard Langer.
There
are some who just can't putt anywhere else, but they get to Augusta.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Sergio,
Egan's out.
Even Sergio.
Maybe
Woozy was, at times, not when he was winning, but, was not a great putter. Sergio, not a great putter. Phil, at times in his career, terrible from close range. I don't think, as much as the greens are famed and quick and all this, being a good putter is not a requirement. But it's just good putters are one there, like
it might
Crenshaw
actually
and
even
Tiger.
Out. The more difficult the greens are to read and whatnot, the really good putters lose the advantage of being the really best putters because everybody's doing a lot of 2 putting and key is to leave it within 2 feet.
I think that's true. Is
that's
that
right.
you don't
2-3
hole as many putts as you normally would, but guys who are bad from a technical standpoint with their putter, when they have something else to focus on externally to their own stroke mechanics is when they putt well. That's why Adam Scott went to the long putter, because he was so focused on the mechanics of moving the putter head to get it rolling that he couldn't do it and effectively putt. When you override the system of your brain to grab the putter in a different way, where all you're doing is just moving the thing to get in, the ball gets in the way, which is kind of what happens at
Sounds
Augusta.
Like you've given this a lot of thought.
Yes, I certainly have. At Augusta,
A lot of people who've been through this, Jimmy.
personal experience included, the focus at Augusta is so much on line and speed that you can't spend time thinking about your putting stroke.
You started on the line and a lot of putts go in.
Correct, that's
Like,
right.
that's-
You can start on the wrong line at Augusta and putts go in.
Yeah.
Because there's that much. While it's difficult to putt with that much slope and speed, it's also a little bit easier because you just get it started and it starts moving.
And your expectations are lower. You're not expecting.
Yeah,
points,
correct.
are you?
Yeah.
Having said all of that, who will be able to sit and watch if Zalatoris has a 3-footer from just above the hole on 18 on Sunday,
I'd love to see
down the hill left to right to win it?
Horrifying stuff.
Yeah.
Who'd be able to watch that? I'm not sure I could. At the last second, you'd have to look away. I think we'd all get the flinches.
It was a bit the same with Adam in 2013.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember sitting on the couch and watching that and just feeling sick to my stomach.
Yeah, those
And not over the long ones.
First couple of
The
playoff
short
holes where
ones.
he's
Yeah.
like had to hold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, could be interesting, but I would put him in. I'd put him in that category. Zalatoris, Minwoo is another one.
Yep.
I think he's got and having that experience at the Players a couple of weeks ago is going to hold him in very good stead. The crowd's going to love him, and he loves that.
And he knows he's world class.
Loves the spot. Exactly. Can hit all of the shots. Again, wet golf course suits him. Carried a long way in the air. Long hitter. There's nothing Minwoo can't do. I'd be surprised if he won. That would be a huge call at this point.
I'd suggest you can't grow a strong moustache.
No, that's true. Yeah.
That's something you can't do.
That's a theme for the Australian players. 3 of the 5
Poor facial hair.
have got terrible moustaches. Smith, Crowe, Lee.
Day as well, really.
Well, no, he's got a decent beard
It's
to him.
patchy when
Patchy,
it grew
I
in.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go with you. I'd say patchy at best.
Adam can grow a decentish beard.
We
Doesn't
don't
happen
want to
very
see
often.
that.
No, you don't want to see it.
Yeah,
Don't
you want to
hide
see that beautiful face.
Don't hide that pretty face,
Yeah.
Adam. No, let us all look at it. That's what we like about
Do
it.
you, Adam?
And I'd put Schauffele into that category as well.
Absolutely.
He's got that. I think he's got that artist's view. There's something about Augusta which is not like courses. They
Strong beard,
every
though.
week.
He could do a strong beard.
Yeah.
Schauffele.
Yeah, Olympic gold medalist. But same guy, he's just got a solid
But just
all-round game.
quality player.
Nothing about Schauffele that you say that's outstanding, but nothing about Schauffele that you say, oh, he needs to work on that.
Well, he tinkered with some things a couple of years back where it was probably through boredom more than anything else. Like he at one stage switched to an arm lock putter because he believed it could make him a better putter when he was already a good putter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a worrying trend for a guy when they go down that sort of
right.
path.
I'm so good, I've got to look
I'm
for something
so
to make
good,
me
I've got to
better.
look elsewhere
Yeah.
and quickly.
That's like
undid that.
Spieth with cross-handed and looking at the hole.
Well, he's
Like,
been
there's-
cross-handed since he was a kid.
I know, but there's always
But he
there
went-
must have been mental damage there.
I got no issue with changing things up. Jeff Ogilvy said to me once, I change putters that are barely different. They might have a different coloured sight dot and all this sort of stuff just to freshen up my mind.
Yeah.
You know, I just need something. Look, I'm looking at this thing all day, every day. I need to freshen up. Whereas the other guys, Ben Crenshaw's using a putter older than me. You know, like it's a different thing. But Schauffele seemed to go through that quite early in his progress as a top player. And I wonder if there's always something tinkering along in that mind of trying to work on things. But you know, he should contest and compete.
Sometimes actually, you say, I think this might be somewhat true of Rory too. Rory's gone back to the blade style putter. Yeah. Sometimes changing just so you can go back makes sense. Take off your old slippers and leave them off for a couple of weeks. And when you go back to them, it's like, oh, how comfortable are these? I'd forgotten.
As a kid, I was told never get rid of a putter you liked because you'll like it again.
That's exactly right.
You're a slippers guy?
Yeah, of
big
course he's a slippers guy. That's the most obvious thing of all time.
Yeah, okay.
Big
All
time.
I bought slippers
Well,
recently.
it's
I
not
really
slippers.
instantly regretted the
Really?
purchase.
I don't think I've ever owned a pair of slippers.
Ugg boots. Well, I've never owned a pair of jeans. So,
Yeah, well, there you go. That's the stuff that people are listening for.
And then there's the rest.
Yep.
Previous winners, Adam, Hideki, Dustin Johnson. You wouldn't pick them first. Could they win? Yes. Tiger's probably in that category. Actually, it's Tiger. I don't think Tiger.
We'll go
this
into
year. I'd
Tiger a bit
love
later.
to see. Yeah, he's his own category. And that's your field. So
May as
who's
well
gonna
get a
win?
tip from everyone. You've already kind of revealed your.
I'm going Jordan Spieth.
Yep.
And I've got a hazy tip this week as well, which is Patrick Reed. We'll talk to him.
We'll
talk
talk
about him when we come to
talk
live as well.
outside,
But I reckon he's a good chance this week too.
Logue, thoughts?
You didn't mention Adrian Logue.
No, I didn't.
Part of one of the best April Fools that's been around
Yes.
the
Didn't they
CP
get
World
some
Tour.
people?
They
So
got people
good.
hook, line and sinker with
Love that.
And shout out to Jared Hitchcock for his reply to me when I pointed it out with one of the great gifts of all time.
Just hands up.
Yeah,
Got me.
I'm an idiot.
I'm an idiot.
Oh, good. He's pretty good on Twitter, Jared.
Yeah.
So Adrian Logue, I think, is in the conversation. But is it his first Masters?
His first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Who
okay.
knows? Could go either
We'll
way.
come to
Is he the
outsiders
first
later. We'll come to
Polish
outsiders
player
later.
to play in the Masters?
Absolutely he is. He's the first Polish player to do anything.
That's exactly right. That category's been taken care of.
Adrian Logue will be the first Polish player to do every single
Exactly.
thing
We can
until
just
he
stop
retires.
saying it because it's a given.
Yeah.
All right. I'm tipping John Rahm.
John Rahm? Okay. I'm going to go with Colin Morikawa, despite you saying he's not in that tier to win.
Oh, I didn't mention him at all.
No, you mentioned. He
He's
was
in
there.
that second round.
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
You wouldn't be surprised.
Three
if there's
cuts
any of us that
made.
wouldn't pick him.
3 cuts made from 3 starts.
Oh, mate.
5th last year, where he was part of the highlight reel. He and Rory holding out from
Yeah.
a bunker at the
Yeah.
18th. But seriously elite ball striker who's found some form. Putting is the worry with him. But he's one of those guys we talked about where sort of works when he gets here, maybe goes with something different, coming in and just starts to hole some putts. He will avoid all of the controversial stuff with Liv and all that sort of stuff. He's kind of got a free ride this week and seems to play and wins. He's won 2 majors, don't forget. Won 2 majors where there's a lot of external noise on other people.
Yep.
Just goes about his business.
Good call.
So I think he is a massive chance. A little bit more depth in the Australians for the week. We've already had a mention of quite a few of them. So Cam Smith's the first one up, 5th in the world. Won the last men's major played, which easy to forget because it was 8 months or something ago.
We're used to the PGA being. I'm still used to the PGA.
Yeah, that's
being
right.
The last major of the year.
4 top 10s in the past 5 Masters, never missed a cut. Was the first player to ever shoot 4 rounds in the 60s in 2020 when he was runner-up to Dustin
It's an extraordinary
Johnson.
stat, don't you think?
Unbelievable. Like,
Really?
There was 2020 before someone shot all 4 in the 60s.
Yeah.
crazy.
Just
And
extraordinary.
didn't win.
And didn't win.
Like,
Exactly.
that's the crazy part.
Yeah.
Best finish this year was at Live Golf Mayakoba, where I think he was T5 or something similar. Look, the question is preparation for Cam, but obviously plays the golf course brilliantly, and I'm sure he will have no concerns. He believes he has no concerns about how much he's played. So
Adam Scott didn't think it was a problem either, did he?
no, correct. Adam Scott said to us last week he can definitely win. Doesn't matter what he's got coming in, short game and all that sort of stuff. Jason Day's ranked 33rd in the world, best finish of T2 in 2011, genuinely chance to win in 2011 when Charles Schwartzel came home and rained on the parade, and 2013 when Adam won. First time back and his 12th Masters since 2021, 4 top 10, but did miss 2 cuts in his last 2 starts. But form, the best Aussie coming in. You know, top 10s regularly.
Love his chances.
He is like swinging the golf club very differently to when he was contending, but swing it much more consistently. The bigger thing was when Jason was struggling with his back, with his golf swing, with everything, external stuff too, to do with his mum and all this sort of stuff, his putting is the thing that went away. That's how he made his living, and it's coming back. He's worked it out. He's got it going. So big chance when that's the factor.
Did he have a little bout of the dizziness?
No, he had a couple of weeks. It was hay fever.
Oh, was it hay fever?
Suffers badly
Okay.
from hay fever and was just needed his hay fever tablet.
Oh, that's
couple of
disappointing. I think he
couple
plays
of
his best when
tweets
he's
from
got
people
the-
out there that maybe misinformed
Yes.
what was going on. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Adam Scott, obviously our first winner, best finish at T21 this year, 22nd start, 28 of his 80 rounds at Augusta are under par, I think. Only ever missed 2 cuts. Minwoo Lee tied the record for the lowest front 9 score last year. Genuine chance, 14th last year. Just missed out on an automatic invite and return, but got one anyway. And then you've got Harrison Crowe, the amateur, gets in off the Asia Pacific amateur win. Genuinely aiming to contend and finish in the top 12 to get back next year. So, good on him. Exactly right.
If you don't go there with that attitude, then, as he said, what's the point?
Yeah,
you don't
it's
think you
good.
can win, don't you?
His good is very good.
That's
It
right.
is. It's a
Top
big,
Aussie.
big pond, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're climbing out of a very small guppy pond into a very big shark
Yeah.
ocean.
Absolutely.
It's a huge step up.
Top Aussie from everyone this week. I like Adam Scott. Why not?
Jason Day for me.
Yeah, I've got Jason Day as well.
It's hard.
But look, honestly, you could throw all of them into the... probably Harrison aside, you could make a case for any of them.
I agree completely. I think, it's quite difficult.
One of them's going to be there, I think, on Sunday. It's going to be a great Australian year for the Masters.
Yeah, I
as an
think-
Australian fan, you're going to have at least one in there on Sunday with a
Realistically,
genuine chance.
the one with the best recent record and the most recent major champion is the biggest one with questions around because we're not sure about, which is crazy to think about. You know, like Adams played some decent golf, but he said last week, isn't winning. There's just something, he's really consistent but isn't winning. This is the kind of place where he could win.
Absolutely.
Jason Day is close to winning. You know, Minwoo Lee is loving every moment of what's going on with him.
Absolutely.
Live Golf, obviously a big talking point with 18 players from there in the field, including past champions Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, Patrick Reed, Charles Schwartzel, Sergio Garcia and Bubba Watson, while one of its biggest names, Brooks Koepka, became its first multiple champion last week. So, look, I think it'll be a lot of bubble that doesn't really do anything.
Hard to say. So there is something in that. Koepka's another one, a bit like Smith, is the chip on his shoulder about being told that it was a mistake to go to Live, and then the rumours that he wanted to leave Live and all the rest of it. He feeds on that.
Yeah.
So if he's driving it as well as they said he did at Live Orlando, who knows? I mean, we know he's got the...
Looked a little shaky coming home to win that tournament. Hit a couple of squirrely ones off the tee.
You don't mind that though, do you? Especially if you overcome it. A bit like Rose Zhang. That Sunday round for her at Augusta might be one of the most important in her careers. Like, you can win without your best stuff.
Yeah.
Often forgotten, 2019.
Yeah.
It was kind of his for the taking,
Absolutely.
realistically, and he
Jumped
stumbled.
in the water along with all.
Yeah, and he
of it.
would have learnt a lot from that. But the Live players, I don't think should be discounted like a lot of people do. But the preparation of last week, playing that golf course with grainy Bermuda greens, it was wide open, to coming to this week.
The Florida Heather.
The Florida Heather that you so brilliantly told
Just
us
the
about.
name.
What a
Crooked
trash.
I think
it was a trash golf
yeah.
course. I tuned in a little bit. It looked really bad.
I think that is a major factor when you're trying to, you know, a lot of these guys live in Florida, but they would have gone to somewhere to go and practice on greens that are going to be more similar, and this is going to be the question mark.
It is a question mark. I mean, you can't really say that. It's very easy to go, they haven't played enough, it'll be no good. I don't think that's quite true either. There's more to it, particularly at Augusta, because, you know, once you get to Sunday, it's not about how much you've played or all the rest of that's a part of it. But if you can get to Sunday, it's got nothing really to do with the golf swing and everything to do with how you handle what must be one of the most intense atmospheres you'll ever encounter in your life anywhere.
And I think Koepka's almost one of those magical Masters guys. Like I think contends most years.
I think
he's not missing any tools from the toolbox.
No,
he's got everything.
And he contends quite a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think the storylines for it will actually not be things that come out so much. They'll be behind closed doors. Only one of the Live players with a press conference before the tournament being Cam Smith. Phil,
Do you think that's deliberate?
mostly.
You can't win, can you? It doesn't matter what you do.
Phil used
You
to
can't
get
win.
one most years.
Yeah, it's true.
But that was just to give him a chance to get up and be Phil. He hasn't contended there for a while. He didn't play last year. There's no real reason for him to have one other than to give him a chance to do what he wants to do with it. Dustin Johnson, you could argue, should have one. He's a recent winner, one of the best players in the world. He will genuinely be a contender here. Beyond that, no. But
Schwartzel, no.
I'm sure they'll be barreled up at the under the tree to get some comments out of.
Yeah.
Particularly after the Champions Dinner, where you would expect
There's going to be some tension.
there might
has to
be
some
a bit of tension. You know, there's
Not
not
unusual. It's
there's
not-
not the hate that everyone talks about, but
tension before. VJ's not the most popular player.
No,
Patrick
that's right.
Reed's not the most popular player before Liv either. There's always been outliers.
Joaquin
in that room.
Neiman said some very strong words about players last week on a golf.com, I think it was, video. There's more there than you think.
How did Tiger and Fuzzy get on in 98 at the Champions?
Yeah, I can't imagine very well.
97.
And Greg Norman suggesting that the other players would hang around the 18th green. I don't think that's true. Interestingly, players without clothing sponsorships will apparently wear their Live stuff this week. Bryson DeChambeau has a Crushers, I think he is, logo on his shirt, but is wearing his own logo. Patrick Reed is, of course, wearing Four Aces stuff everywhere. I think you'll see more blank clothing than those guys, because no matter how disruptive they want to be as Live golfers, they all respect Augusta National to another level, and they don't want to cause a scene. So, interesting part of the week. But
I do think Patrick Reed's a chance, by the way, because that
absolutely.
whole being the
100%
underdog and the most hated man in the room, that is absolutely his spinach to his Popeye.
Yeah.
Give him that, he'll do all sorts of stuff. And with Rory being one of the favourites, and unfortunately, if you're not a fan of Reed, and I'm not, really kind of sets up quite well for him. The only thing being the wet golf course might not play into his hands.
To think that, there's people who discount it, to think Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Cam Smith, Patrick Reed, you want to get one of those guys who's in it come Sunday? It's
they suddenly can't
silly.
play, is it?
No.
They can play better than...
Was the second place to Rory recently the last 4-round tournament he played as well?
Would have been, Dubai.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Other major talking point is, of course, Tiger Woods, who got there Sunday afternoon, like he did in 2019, went out and played a few holes and hit some balls, played a practice round with Rory McIlroy, Tom Kim and Fred Couples on Monday. Apparently limp noticeable, as it always is, but hitting the ball quite well. Very jovial from all reports and all photos and video of him. It's just, you don't know. Made the cut in his last start at the Genesis, made the cut here last year. Wonder if it's now a case of just cuts made for Tiger at the Masters each year.
We still underrate him, don't we?
Absolutely.
It's just to make the cut at the Genesis. It's just extraordinary stuff. He's a freak.
Well, watching the official film of last year, you forget the second round had this unbelievably strong northerly wind, and a guy playing on one leg in his first start in 500 and something days.
Yeah.
And he gets up there and still manages to scrape it in.
Yep.
He had, I think it was a 4-putt and 5 3-putts one day to shoot his worst ever round. That was day 3. So he's like done something awful to shoot his worst round. That's not his good golf that he's getting around.
No.
He's played as bad as Tiger can play.
Right, yeah.
Even with a limp as well, you got to think he's feeling 1,000% better than he did last year.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Like,
It'll really come
The
down
coldness, I think, doesn't affect the leg, it affects the back.
Yeah.
When it's cold, he genuinely struggles.
It's the 4 days.
Yeah.
Come to Sunday, you've been in pain from Thursday.
And it's so hilly. It's hilly.
And it's not.
than you
It's
imagine.
exactly. It's no easy. And if it's wet, the risk of slipping and
I mean,
look,
Adam
everything
Scott-
works against him. So probably load up and put your house on him.
Adam Scott talked about he's changed his preparation. He didn't go early where he normally plays with his dad on Sunday and then plays. He's gone later because he's getting older, he gets tired. Tiger does the other. He goes earlier to play 9 holes here and there and sporadically. So may as well get an outsider before we finish from everyone. Rod, an outsider to win?
Chris Kirk. We're
Outstanding.
well outside. And you know why?
No
because
chance.
when you've seen Augusta through the eyes of a drunk, it should make sense sober.
Former drunk.
And he's playing all right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay.
He hasn't been there for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Last time he was there, he was, he's a self-confessed alcoholic, off the booze since 2019 and been playing some good golf this year. So why not?
Good story.
It's certainly an
I'd like to see
outsider, isn't it?
it. Yeah, it's outside. Logue?
Good story. No chance. He's got no chance. Min Woo Lee's my outsider. I think he's just at that point.
Teetering on the edge of outsider category.
I'll just allow it.
I'll allow
It's
it.
half
It's his
in and half
second
out.
Masters.
I'll allow it.
I think he's just at that point in his career when he knows how good he is, but not everybody else knows how good he is, and that must be such a special feeling for him. I think he's like, he's still got that up his sleeve. I'm going to show the world, and yeah,
Loves to show off too.
Yeah, he
He's
loves-
gaining that maturity. That the players will have done wonders for him. He'll have learned an enormous amount from that. Enormous amount.
He's getting some attention, but still not that much attention that people are like, oh,
He'll be a
like
superstar.
this is somebody important.
Even when he wins a major, he'll be a superstar.
Yeah, I think only he knows that at the moment. That's such a special thing for an elite sports person, I think, to know I've got more.
Yeah. I think it was Azinger talked about that with Woods, the importance of wanting to show off like a kid. Look what I can do that none of the others can do. You're right. Minwoo's got that, I think.
Sacked his sister as par-3 caddy as well.
Really?
Yeah. Said she showed off too much.
Is that right? Yeah.
So I think Mum's going to be on the bag this week. Minji is there, but Mum's going to be on the bag for the par-3 contest or his girlfriend. So that's a kind of baller move too. Like your sister's older than you and won 2 majors,
Two-time
and
major,
you go,
mate. You're out.
You're sacked. That's pretty cool.
You're not playing well enough. Get
Don't
out.
need a good caddy around that trash par-3 course.
That brings it pretty much full circle.
Outsider?
For me,
Jimmy? You haven't thought of one, have you?
Ryan Fox.
Yeah, not a bad
First time, hits it a mile. If it's wet, it's great. Putting's going to be the issue for Foxy around there, but he's the kind of guy would have got some good practice rounds in. Everyone loves.
Yeah, that's right.
Every other player loves Ryan Fox,
exactly
so he's
right.
the kind of guy that would have got all the offers to go and play practice round with people and learn a bit. And I'd like to see a first
I
time
would love
Masters
to
win.
see him in the coverage quite a lot.
Oh,
that would
so
be
would I.
awesome. Imagine what the Americans would be making of him.
Oh, it's just
The
like
coverage would be awesome.
just the way he swings, the way he walks.
Oh, exactly. Everything about
Ryan Fox is great,
Yeah.
and it just would be. It's New Zealand needs a Masters.
Yeah,
now.
absolutely.
We've got one. Everyone's got one now,
Except New Zealand.
except for New Zealand.
Well, New Zealand listeners.
Poland.
And maybe you could serve up something completely ridiculous to go from a boring champions dinner this year to something exciting. I imagine Ryan Fox hasn't.
He'd have an
I reckon he's
adventurous
very
palate,
good on
wouldn't
the
he?
fan.
Yeah.
I reckon he'd
an
be good.
adventurous palate.
Yeah.
It'd be a multiple course meal.
Oh yeah,
There'd be
I
no
have seen him. I've sat down near him and eaten. It's something. That's it for episode 8 of Playing from the Tips. To keep up to date, head to our website golfaustralia.com.au, where there'll be daily updates in the lead up to, during and post the Masters tournament from every angle imaginable. You can also still win $5,000 worth of Titleist gear by voting for your favourite holes in Australia's Australia's greatest 18 competition. Enjoy the week, and here's hoping one of our tips or yours is slipping into a green jacket on Sunday in Augusta.